upward price movement of goods and services in an economy, which are often caused by increase in the supply of money in the circulation. And it is usually measured by the consumer price index. And the producer price index.
Sir, we cannot hear you. We cannot hear me.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Now, so when an annual rate of inflation begins to fluctuate continuously, it will now lead us to from nearly zero inflation to 2.3% inflation. When there's a changes in inflation in the economy, monetary authority will now be actively involved in order to maintain or to reduce inflation rates, which they may try to reduce inflation rates between 2 to 3%. In reality, there is no way they can remove or reduce. They can only reduce inflation rate to minimal level. Inflation rate can never go in the economic system, right? They can only reduce it. That is the essence of price stability that government always embark upon on year in, year out, using monetary policy instruments to achieve price stability in the economy. In other words, inflation can be defined as a persistent and continuous increase in the general price level without corresponding increase in the supply of goods and services. That is when you normally experiencing inflation. When there is an increase in supply of money in the circulation, and when there is no increase in supply of goods and services, automatically the little goods that's available, right? The excess money will be fighting to get. At least you and I don't have enough output in the goods and services. Definitely, the money we have with us, we'll be using it to purchase at the higher price of the remaining good that's available. That is what we call continuous rise in increase in general price level of the goods and services without corresponding increase in the supply of goods and services. Inflation rate is computed as changes in the computer price index over time. Can be computed as the changes in the consumer price index over time, CPI. The inflation rate may be minor if it does not exceed 5%. So here we are talking about forms of inflation rate. When we say inflation rate could be minor, that is when it is very slow rate, when it does not exceed 5%. But when the inflation rate now exceeds 5%, we call it a crippling inflation. You know, when something is crippling, we call it a crippling inflation. But in a situation where your inflation rate is up to 20%, it is being called galloping inflation. Galloping inflation. I want you to take note of all these things by the time you come across it in your objectives. But when the inflation becomes a runaway inflation or hyperinflation, that is when the percentage of inflation is above 50%. That is when we are experiencing runaway or hyperinflation. Going further, we need to know the basic terms and terminologies of this inflation that we are talking about. Number one, we are going to talk about the consumer price index. Consumer price index. What is consumer price index? It's an inflation indicator that measures the change in the cost of a fixed basket of products and services, which include housing, electricity, food, and transportation. The CPI is published on a monthly basis by CBN and is also called cost of living index. It's also called cost of living index. The second one is producer price index, PPI. Producer price index, PPI. It is an inflation indicator published by the CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria, to evaluate the wholesale price level in an economy. It's also called a wholesale price index. The next one is just the opposite of inflation. You know, I told you that inflation is continual and persistent rise in price of goods and services over the period of time. And when you see the third one, is called deflation. Deflation is a decline in the general price level, often caused by a reduction in the money supply or credit in the circulation. Inflation is the persistent rise in price of goods and services over the period of time, right? Deflation is a decline in general price level that is caused as a result of reduction in the money supply in the economy. By the time you are trying to control inflation, invariably, indirectly, you are trying to get deflation. Because when you are trying to control inflation, you are trying to mop up the excess money in the circulation, excess liquidity in circulation. You are trying to reduce the excess money in the circulation. It is turned down to not make the price to reduce, it turn to deflation. Deflation can also be brought about by direct contraction in spending. Direct contraction in government spending, that's under fiscal policy, either in the form of reduction in government spending or personal spending or investment spending. Deflation can also be brought about when government reduces spending, expenditure, or you that you normally consume. You normally spend 100,000 naira in a month, you reduce your spending to 20,000 in a month. All those ones can cause deflation. Deflation has often had the side effect of increasing unemployment in an economy, since the process often leads to lower level of demand in the economy. It is what? It is the direct opposite of inflation. How do I mean? That they have the direct or indirect effect on the unemployment. The moment you try to reduce excess money in the circulation, automatically there will be a reduction in aggregate demand. There will be a reduction in aggregate supply. And all these things will lead to unemployment. When there is no investment in an economy, or when there is no money in an economy, how do you want investors to invest? How do you want consumers to consume goods? So automatically it will lead to unemployment problem in the economy, which will now lead to what? Depression. The economy will now turn to what? Depression. Going forward, what are now the causes of inflation? What are the causes of inflation? Inflation can be caused by a variety of different factors. The causes of inflation can be best explained by looking at aggregate demand and aggregate supply. And I believe you people have been taught about the demand and supply, right? And they are taught you about shifts in demand and shifts in supply. As shown by the diagram below, any changes in either aggregate supply or aggregate demand will cause a change in price level. Aggregate demand is inversely related to price. that go down if I say why the supply is opposite related to price. It is supply that goes up while demand goes down. So any changes as a result of increase in demand, aggregate demand, is what we know as demand pull inflation.
Sir, we cannot hear you.
We can't hear you, sir.
Okay, sorry, I don't know why the system is just moving me like that. Okay, let's continue. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Please, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So any changes in aggregate demand or aggregate supply will lead to price level, will lead to increase in price level. And this will lead, increase in price level will lead to what? Inflation. Increase in price level will cause inflation. If both happen together, the inflation will then become worse. If the inflation is caused by increase in demand, if inflation is caused by increase in demand, then it is known as demand pull inflation. How do I mean? There's excess money in circulation, then there's a fixed supply of goods and services. And then this excess money will not be used to chase these fewer goods. It will lead to what? Demand pull inflation. That means it is as a result of your demand that causes increase in supply of goods and services. However, if the inflation is caused by a change in aggregate supply, then it is usually known as cost push inflation. Cost push inflation. We are still coming to what might make the cost inflation to occur. Then the next line is the quantity theory of money. Quantity theory of money, according to the classical, show how increase in growth in money supply can cause inflation. And this happens because the extra money boosts the level of demand and so cause demand pull inflation. When there is too much money in the circulation, automatically, maybe you are being paid 100,000 naira as a salary. They now increase your salary to 200,000 naira, and the output they are buying is not changed, right? It will push the price of that good that you normally buy to a higher level because the money in your hand has increased by 50%. So that is the quantity theory of money. So when there is too much money in the circulation, it will always cause demand pull inflation. Cost push inflation, on the other hand, occurs when the business responds to rise in cost of production. Because when the cost of production is on the high side, it's by raising the price in order to maintain and to have their profit margin. Then automatically that will cause by cost push. Say for example, now as an investor or a producer, and the cost of material has gone up, wage rate has also gone up. As a business person, as a businessman, what do you think I should do? Automatically, I want to increase my price in order to maintain my profit. So all those things will lead to what? Cost push inflation. Cost push inflation. So there are many reasons why cost might rise. What are the reasons? Rising cost of imported raw material. If you are an investor that you use raw material from abroad, for importing raw material from abroad, then the cost of exchange rate for you to import that raw material will be on the high side, and that will automatically lead to increase in price of that good that you want to produce. Rising cost of labor can also cause cost push inflation. When the wage rate is on the high side, increasing salary from time to time without increasing output, it will lead to what? Cost push inflation. higher indirect tax imposed by the government. If government impose direct, indirect tax on company tax, it will lead to what? Cost push inflation. Cost push inflation can be illustrated by an inward shift of the short-run aggregate supply. Cost push inflation can be illustrated by an inward shift of the short-run aggregate supply curve. Demand curve, on the other hand,
We are not hearing you.
you are not hearing me again.
We are hearing.
We can hear you, sir. We can hear you, sir.
We can hear you, sir.
Demand pull inflation, on the other hand, occur when there's a full employment of resources. When the short-run aggregate supply is inelastic. An increase in aggregate will lead to an increase in price. Aggregate demand might rise for a number of reasons. What are these reasons? Which can also occur together at the same time moment of the economic cycle. When there's a depreciation in exchange rate, from time to time. Now our naira to dollar is now 1,600 naira. You can see a dollar to naira is 600. So you have enough money to chase fewer goods. It can cause demand pull inflation, and which will make the price of that goods and services to increase. A reduction in direct tax and indirect tax. When the government tries to reduce your tax, the disposable tax on your disposable income, you have more income to purchase fewer goods. It will automatically lead to high price, which will lead to what? Demand pull inflation. When there's a rapid growth of money supply in the circulation, excess of money supply, that's too much of money chasing fewer goods, will also cause a price of goods and services to rise. Rising consumer confidence and an increase in the rate of growth of goods. When you have confidence about a particular product, if they call it any price for you, so far there's too much money in circulation, so far you have confidence in that price, you go for it. That's why you see some people, the phone that is not even worth more than 200,000 naira, people are buying it 500, 700,000 naira at Computer Village because they have confidence in that particular goods. And the rate of growth of that good, particularly, I'm talking about iPhone products, because people believe in iPhone products, so they prefer paying so much money for iPhone product than any other product. So it's as a result of too much money in circulation, which also cause demand pull inflation. Faster economic growth in other countries. Faster economic growth in other, in advanced countries, most of our Nigerians, they jackpot to Canada and they've jackpot to UK, they've jackpot to US, all because the economy in the US is growing, right? Because of that, increase in people moving to that region, they are going to increase aggregate demand of that product produced in that region, which also cause inflation in that region. The next one is another problem that can cause inflation is the people's expectation of inflation. Is people expectation of inflation. When all our neighbors, they've expected that there's going to be an increase in inflation in 2025. They quickly fought in order for government to increase their minimum wage. So with that, it will also cause inflation, cause rise price of goods and services, and it leads towards demand pull inflation. On the other hand, in the cost push inflation, the source of rising costs are as follows. When there's an increase in wage rates, can cause high cost of production, which can lead to reduction in aggregate supply, and which can lead to cost push inflation. profits in a mission as a rational businessman want to maximize profits, you may decide to, for you to maximize profit, you may service produce beyond the limits, and it will also cause push inflation. The imported inflation, when there is the imported of raw material to the country to produce goods and services, the high cost of imported raw material will lead to cost push inflation. Exchange rate changes can also cause, that is depreciation of exchange rate can also cause cost push inflation. Commodity price changes can also cause inflation. External shocks. When there's external shocks, if there's a problem somewhere, we can have side effects in the country. They can also cause push inflation. The exhaustion of natural resources, when there's a limited natural resources, when you've already exhausted all the natural resources that you are using to produce goods and services, it will also may need to cause push inflation, which will lead to price of goods and services to increase and to lead to cause push inflation. Now, the next one is quantity theory of money. As I've said, quantity theory of money. The classical economic view of inflation revolves around this theory, and this theory is derived from the Fisher equation of exchange. It's an equation, and the equation said NV equals to PT. What is the meaning of NV? What is the meaning of PT? M stands for amount of money in circulation, while V is the velocity of circulation of the currency, while P is the average price level, and T stands for the number of transactions taking place. So according to the classical, they say that assuming that the velocity of money is constant and the transaction remains the same, constant, as any change in money supply will result to change in price level. That means increase in money supply will lead to increase in price level of goods and services. That's what the quantity theory of exchange talks about. Now, the equation is just a fact, is a fact identity or truism. It says that the amount of money stock times the rate at which it's used for transaction will equal to the number of transactions times the price of each transaction. It will always be true because national income must be equal to what? National expenditure in your basic macroeconomics theory. The next one is Philip Cobb. Philip Cobb is discovered by Professor A.W. Phillips. We just explained the relationship between inflation and unemployment rate. So there's an inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment rate. And you can see the graph, though I didn't draw it well, but you can see it on your model. That is why inflation is on the y-axis, vertical axis, while unemployment is on the horizontal axis, x-axis. There's any increase in inflation, it will reduce unemployment. Increase in inflation will reduce unemployment, while decrease in inflation will increase unemployment. That is why that inflation cannot be totally wiped out in the economic system. It can only be minimized or reduced it to minimal level. Philip Cobb showed the trade-off between unemployment and inflation. He showed the trade-off that if you want to achieve inflation, right, unemployment will reduce. Increase in if you want to achieve price stability by reducing inflation, that means it will lead to what? Increase in unemployment. If you want to achieve reduction in unemployment, it will lead to what? Increase in inflation. It's a trade-off between inflation and unemployment. Right? Now, going further, what are now the control What are the controlling inflation? How can we control inflation? We can control inflation on two policies: demand side policy and supply side policy. We can control inflation in two ways: demand side policy and supply side policy. You know, I'm saying that aggregate demand push, demand pull, and supply cost push. Demand side policy and supply side policy. What do we have under demand side policy? Number one, it's all about to control or to reduce excess money in the circulation. And this can be done through three means: direct control on lending rates, direct control on lending rates, two, fiscal policy, and the third one is monetary policy. Let me explain one after the other. When we say direct control on lending rates, that is when government or CBN try to order the commercial bank to reduce their lending rate loan, the source of loan given out to consumer, so as to reduce excess money in the circulation, right? So if they control the lending rate to a minimal level, it will also reduce inflation, control inflation to a minimal level. Also, the second one is fiscal policy. This is where government uses fiscal policy instruments vis-a-vis taxation, vis-a-vis government borrowing, vis-a-vis government expenditure. If government can increase the taxes, it will reduce excess money in the hand of company, in the hand of individual. So the aggregate demand will be reduced, and it will control inflation. Aggregate demand will be reduced, and it will control inflation to a minimal level. If government also reduces expenditure to a minimal level, it will control the excess money in the circulation, and it will control lead to reduction in inflation. And if government reduces borrowing as well, it also lead to reduction in inflation in the circulation. Monetary policy is another instrument that government can use to control inflation under demand side policy, right? And this is by using monetary policy rates, interest rates, credit reserve ratio, moratorium, and liquidity ratio, and so on and so forth. All these are when government try to do contractionary monetary policy instruments. It will reduce excess money in the circulation, which will lead us to, it will reduce aggregate demand. By reducing aggregate demand, it will now reduce inflation to a minimal level. What about the supply side policy? Supply side policies are aimed at making market work better and removing possible market imperfection. And these include improve education and training. You know, supply side has to be in order to increase aggregate output. To increase aggregate output. How can we now make use of improved education and training? When the labor force are well trained, well educated and well trained, the labor productivity will increase, and which will lead to increase in output. And it will lead to what? A control of reduce of cost push inflation. Reduction of the power of trade union to increase the flexibility of wage setting. When they reduce the excess power of trade union in most cases by giving out most of the investors the condition of what the minimum wage rate to pay, it also can also reduce inflation, control inflation to a minimal level. Reduction of tax to encourage investments and risk-taking. If government reduce tax, company tax on all those producers, the money will be used for further investment, and which will lead to increase in output of goods and services, and it will automatically lead to a reduction in the what? Inflation. Reduction of level of tax to motivate people to work harder. When the labor try to get higher income by reducing the tax rate, it motivates him to work more in order to produce more output and to reduce inflation. Removing unnecessary regulation from markets that may hinder efficiency and innovation can also reduce inflation in the circulation. Please, I'm coming for the question. Just hold on for me. Let me explain everything to you. Okay? Now, what are now the effects of inflation? Effect of inflation. Number one, fixed income group will be hurt. Fixed income group will be hurt. That means because their real income suffer. Now, so far we are expressing inflation. Our take home does not take us home anywhere anymore. Our salary is nowhere to be found. You know, if you say you are earning 100,000 naira, 100,000 naira cannot last you in a month. So it is fixed income group will be hurt because their real income will be suffer. Their nominal income does not rise with what? With price. Two, saver will be hurt by unanticipated inflation. With your salary that you are earning, no salary earner can say you want to save during the inflation period. So inflation also affects savings. It affects savings because savings will lose purchasing power. It affects savings. Because you don't know what is going to happen tomorrow. The price of goods that you buy today may change tomorrow, and it will to reduce your savings from time to time. Then the next one is debtor, which is also known as borrower, can be helped, and lender can be hurt by unanticipated inflation. Interest payment may be less than the inflation rate. So borrower receive their money and are paying back cheap money that have less purchasing power for the lender. So it pay people that borrow money than people that lend people's money. It pay borrower than people that lend people's money, right, during the inflation period. If inflation is anticipated, the effect of inflation may be less severe, since wage and pension contracts may have inflation clause because it's built in. And interest rate will be high enough to cover the cost of inflation to saver and lender. The next one there is disinflation. Disinflation means the process of bringing the inflation down. Policymakers respond to inflation quickly as a form of preventive medicine for the economy, because disinflation is very difficult and costly once a higher rate of inflation has occurred. Unemployment. Now, somebody is raising his hand. Teniola and Omotayo.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. You are raising up your hand. What's the question?
So, okay, so you said something about a law, but I didn't get that part. That was why I was raising up my hand.
You didn't get
about the employment rate affecting inflation. That the higher the employment, the higher. I want to get that part. What you were trying to explain.
That is Philip Koff. Philip Koff talked about trade-off inflation, trade-off between inflation and unemployment.
Okay, sir.
It's a trade-off. If government want to achieve reduction in unemployment, right, that means they want to achieve employment in the economy. It will lead to inflation. The government want to achieve price stability objective by reducing inflation to minimum level. It will lead to unemployment. That's a trade-off between the two.
So what is now the what is the corresponding? But because from your explanation, sir, you said that inflation is the rise in money flow in the economy, which
inflation
results.
is the percent rise in price of goods and services Constant rise and continuous rise in price of goods and services at a particular period of time.
Okay,
Right?
sir.
And I
Yes,
told
sir.
you the causes of inflation, which is money, excess money in the circulation.
In the economy. Okay. Okay.
Are you
So
getting what I'm saying?
how does it correspond? How does it affect employment? That is what I want to get, because I'm
That's
not
what I'm
getting.
saying. Wait, let me explain.
Yes, sir.
The Philip curve that by Professor Phillips that talks about the relationship between inflation and unemployment, right? He knows why he's doing that. If you want to control inflation, that means you have to remove excess money in the circulation to make the price to be stable, right? Right? Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yes, I'm getting that.
Now, if you want to do that, it's going to, when you are removing excess money in circulation, it will lead to what? Shortage of aggregate demand. Aggregate demand is equal to what? Your consumption and investment. It will reduce investment and it will reduce consumption. When there is a reduction in all those things, it will lead to unemployment, because people that are supposed to use money to work, to invest, will not be able to engage people to work again.
Okay.
It will lead to what? Unemployment.
Okay, I think that I'm getting it now, because I don't see the correlation before. Thank you, sir.
People will not be better in a situation where government want to achieve reduction in unemployment. But if government want to achieve it now, there's unemployment in the circulation. Government want to achieve employment opportunity by reducing unemployment. What is government going to do is that it's going to make sure that it increases expenditure, reduce taxes for companies and individuals to increase aggregate demand and investment. By doing that, they'll be able to increase production. When they increase production, they'll be able to engage more workers to work. But while they are doing that, money in the circulation is too much. It will not lead to what? Increase in inflation. That's what the Philip Curve tried to explain to us. It's a trade-off between the two. So when they say trade-off, either you tackle one, when you are tackling one, when you are solving problem of one, it will lead to the problem of another one. When you are try to solve the problem of another one, it will lead to the problem of another one. That's what they call trade-off between the two. So let's continue. So because of our time, the next thing that I want to talk about is unemployment. Unemployment, according to the Standard International Labour Organization, the definition of unemployment is based on the following three criteria, which should be satisfied simultaneously. One, without work. When somebody is without work, it's an unemployed person. When somebody is currently available for work, unlike our youth corps, they are currently available for work, they are still grouped under unemployed person. And when somebody is seeking for work, that somebody is right and is seeking for work, is called unemployed person. So definition of unemployed is based on these three criteria. Accordingly, the unemployed comprises all the person above a specific age who during the reference period were one, without work, were not in paid employment or self-employment, currently available for work, were available for paid employment or self-employment during the reference period, seeking work, are taking specific steps in a specified reference period to seek paid employment or self-employment. Hello? Somebody is talking. So how can we measure unemployment rate? We can measure unemployment through 3 points. Labor force participation rate. Labor force participation rate is what? The participation rate is the amount of labor that is working equals to labor force over adult population times 100. Labor force over adult population times 100. And labor force or labor participation rate is between age 15 or age 18 to 65. People within that group are labor force. Age 1 to 15 or 1 to 16, they can be grouped towards dependency rates. And age 65 or 67 upward, they're also independent people in the population. So labor force participation rate is equal to labor force over adult population times 100. Labor force now comprises of what? Number of employed and number of unemployed. Labor force is equal to what? Number of employed and number of unemployed. The unemployment rate is now what? Number of unemployed divided by labor force times 100. Unemployment rate can now be measured by what? Number of unemployed divided by labor force times 100. Then what are now the type of unemployment? What are the types of unemployment? Well, we have structural unemployment, we have seasonal unemployment, we have frictional unemployment, we have cyclical unemployment, and then we have disguised unemployment. I will explain them one after the other. I want you to get me right clearly. What is structural unemployment? Structural unemployment is an unemployment or long-term unemployment which, as a result of changing in structure of the economy. Say, for example, we are in the modern age now, or maybe in the olden days, our farmer used to, in agricultural practice, our farmer used to cutlass and hoe. And nowadays, we are used to what? Mechanized farming, where we use tractor to mechanize. There are very few farmers can change suddenly from olden days of using cutlass and hoe to using mechanized agricultural tools, tractors to do the agricultural practice. So inability for them to shift can cause what they call structural unemployment, right? 2, seasonal unemployment is as a result of seasonal characteristics of a particular product activities, so that people become unemployed during the slack season. This is also an example of rainy season and dry season. During the rainy season, agricultural practice employ more workers. They employ more workers. That means there's a reduced unemployment rate in agricultural practice. But during the dry season, where there's land, the land is dry and they cannot cultivate the land and so on and so forth, there will be more unemployed people. So because it's as a result of seasonal changes in agricultural practice, so it's called seasonal unemployment. Then frictional unemployment, it arises when labor force is temporarily out of work because of perfect mobility on the part of the labor. Frictional unemployment exists when there is an unsatisfied demand for labor, but the unemployed workers are either not fit for the job in question or not in the right place to meet business. This is as a result. Let me explain that one. Frictional unemployment is as a result of when somebody loses a job or resign in a particular job, thinking that he's going to get another job, a better job than where he's coming from. Within that period looking for job, another job, it's called frictional unemployment. It's called frictional unemployment as a result of perfect mobility on the part of the labor. The next one is cyclical unemployment. Cyclical unemployment is also known as sequential unemployment, which is due to deficiency of aggregate effective demand. It occurs when business depression occurs. You know, in an economy, there's a fluctuation of the economic system. There's up and down, there's a boom, there's a depression. During the depression, there's going to be what? Huge unemployed people. During the boom, there's going to be reduction in the unemployed. So during the boom, business activities are at low ebb, and unemployment will increase. But there is the boom. There's going to be what? There's going to be business activity is going to be on the high side, and there's going to be much employed of labor, and the unemployment will be what? Will be reduced. The next one is this guy's unemployment. This guy's unemployment is the most widespread type of unemployment in developing countries. In developing countries, the stock of capital does not grow fast. When the stock of capital does not grow fast, it can lead to what? This guy's unemployment. That is when the stock of capital does not match up with the total number of population in the country in order for them to produce goods and services at a particular period of time, can lead to what? A disguised unemployment. What are now the policy measures towards unemployment? Policy measures towards unemployment. Number one, public policy measure towards unemployment. Unemployment insurance. That means insurance benefits. Trade-off between efficiency and equity. It's a trade-off between efficiency and equity. Many programs are targeted at alleviating the pains of social unemployment. Education and training provided by local governments. So if government want to control or improve to reduce unemployment, they can do it in form of unemployment insurance benefits. In advanced country, government of advanced country try to engage people that they don't have job by giving them what? By stipends until they get job. Right? And also there's many programs by training provided by local government and education training can also reduce what they call structural unemployment. So that's now we come to the end of the class. So I want to hear a question from you. Any question? There are Jibade Omotayo. Jibade Omotayo. Good. You have a question?
So I have question.
Oh, yeah, what's your question, please?
Can you explain the labor rate again? I did not really understand.
Can't hear you.
Sir, I have question.
If I miss to explain labor rate.
I have a question.
Let us do it one after the other, please.
I have a question.
Wait, one after the other. I want to call Ruth. Ruth.
I have a question.
Ruth, what's your question?
Evening, sir. Sir, my question is, I missed the part where you said increase in money supply will lead to the increase in what? And you also said aggregate demand is equal to consumption savings. I missed that also. And my another question is, sir, please, I would like you to elaborate this cyclical unemployment, which it says when business depression occurs, and also this business activity at EBB. So I don't really understand this.
Let me explain the cyclical unemployment. You know, the economy is not stable, it's up and down. Are you with me? It's up and down. So we normally experience boom. That's when the economy is growing. Then we normally experience depression when the economy is going down. Now, during the process when the economy is going down, all the investors will not want to invest. They will prefer to, in order for them to just break even by sacking some of their workers in the organizations. During the depression, there will be more unemployment. But during the boom, when the economy is growing, they will be willing to engage more workers to work to produce output and goods and services. So unemployment rate will be what? Will be reduced. That is that about the cyclical unemployment. You are talking about aggregate demand is equal to what? It's also consumption plus investment. Abi? Is that what you are saying? Ruth, talk to me now.
Yes, sir.
Aggregate demand. Your aggregate demand is just same thing as your Y, which is your national income. Your total income can be spent on what? Consumption and what? Investment. That's what we are talking about. So if there is an increase in aggregate demand, there is going to be an increase in consumption and there's going to be an increase in investment. Now, for aggregate demand to occur, increase in aggregate demand to occur, there must be increase in supply of money in the circulation. So when there is increase in supply of money in circulation, it will lead to increase in aggregate demand. And increase in aggregate demand without increase in aggregate supply will lead to what? Demand push inflation. Demand pull inflation.
Okay, sir.
Did you get it now?
Yes, sir.
Now, another question, please.
Sir,
Sir,
I'm raising
I have a question.
What's your question, please?
Okay, sir. You talk about unemployment. So I don't get that point very clear.
I can't hear you clearly. Please speak louder.
I say you talk about structural unemployment. So I don't get that point clearly. That is why I'm asking.
Structural unemployment, when there's a changes in the economy from old method of practice of farming to new method of farming. For people from old method of farming to change to a new method of farming, it will affect the employment situation. Now I'm a farmer, I'm an old farmer, used to old tools to practice, right? And then nowadays there is need to what? Mechanized farming. Automatically it will affect the system, meaning that I'm not used to mechanized farming. It will lead to what? Unemployment rate. It will lead to increase in unemployment. And like what is going on in the system now? We are in a computer age now. People that are not used to computer will not be able to get work in a place where they are used to computer. Are you getting what I'm saying now? We are in the modern computer age. The people in the office, they make use of computers. The people that are not well trained, not well educated on computer stuff, they will not be able to be fitting to work in a place where there is a computer, where they are using computer to work. So that's a structural unemployment. So it's as a result of that one lead to structural unemployment. So that way, to control structural unemployment, that means there must be a well-trained education and improve education and training. Have I answered your question?
Yes, sir. Clear.
I would like to
Yes,
ask
sir.
a
My question
please.
is.
Sir, please,
Hello, sir.
another
Can I ask a
question.
question?
In this
Hello, sir.
Your question, please.
Sir, please.
Sir, my
Someone
question
on the
is.
line?
Hello,
Solomon.
sir.
You said cost can be restricted and it was shift.
Solomon.
It's more on supply side policy. I don't actually get it. Supply
Come
side
again.
policies. Supply side policies, sir. I don't actually get it. Can you? Yes, sir.
You don't normally get it.
I don't get it at all. Can you please highlight more?
Policy. Now, I'm trying to supply. You know, I told you 2 ways to control inflation. We talk about demand side policy. So you got that demand side policy very well. The
Yes,
supply side policy is in order to correct the imperfect in the market system. by giving okay, let us go back to it. Supply side policy aim to make market work better by removing possible market imperfection. When the market is not perfect, there's no way there won't be problem of unemployment. In a situation where we have more demand to supply, people that are demand for labor are more to people that are demand supply for labor. It's going to lead to what? Unemployment problem. And going to lead to what? Problem of inflation. Now, for us to supply side policy to aim at correct market imperfection is by improve education and training. Now, if we improve education and training and train people, it will reduce, right? It will increase the labor productivity of a worker for them to increase their output. By increasing the output, there's going to be increase in supply of goods and services, and aggregate supply is going to be increased. When there's increase in aggregate supply of goods and services, it will reduce inflation. Are you getting it now? To reduce reduction of power of trade union. If the excessive power of trade union is being cut down, that trade union did not speak for all the people, as a result of trade union, some of the investors, manufacturing company, lay off some of their workers, and they could not be able to produce more output. So if they could not be able to produce more output, it automatically affects. Then they will not be selling the remaining output that is available, that has been produced at the higher price.
A group of traders who come together.
Hello. The next one.
Yes, another question, sir. Good evening.
Another question.
Yes, I have another question. Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yes, sir. Under quantity theory of money, you said MV is equal to PT. So how does MV related to PT? Because you said money in circulation and the velocity in so circulation. So how does it relate with PT?
Yes. But you are still coming to that. By the time you get to 200 level, you understand what I mean. This is a quantity theory of exchange, and it is the theory of classical economists. Under economics, it's a theory of classical economy that said that money plus velocity, the movement of the money, the circulation, must be equal to the price of that goods and services and the transaction of the goods output. That's why they call it, that's the equation. So if you look at it critically, directly, indirectly, it's not the same thing as your national income must be equal to national expenditure. It must be balanced. Money goes out must be equal to money comes in. That's exactly what the quantity theory of money tries to say. So you now say, let us assume an assumption that the velocity of money in the circulation remain constant, does not change. Then transaction does not change. Transaction of the output does not change. Change in money supply in the circulation will lead automatically to change in price level of that goods and services. Did you understand what I mean now?
Partially. I'm not
partially because you are not an economic student. That's why you are saying partially. But that's why they say it's a true identity. It's a true identity that national income must be equal to national expenditure. If you are studying how to measure national income accounting, national income, which is aggregate demand, must be equal to aggregate supply, aggregate expenditure. Aggregate income must be equal to aggregate expenditure. That is your Y must be equal to E. The money that comes in must be equal to money that goes out.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Changing money in the circulation, increase in money. Government try to increase the money in circulation. It will automatically, and the output does not change.
Hello, sir. I have a question.
Hello,
Okay,
sir.
Sean, I've been raising my hand up since.
Hello, sir.
Hello. Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
The Philip curve.
Hello, sir. I'm here. I have a question.
One after the other, please, because we will soon round up.
Okay, Philip curve. The Philip curve.
Yes.
Explain the curve, sir.
Okay, I shall explain the curve. According to Phillips, Phillips tried to explain the relationship between inflation and unemployment rate. And he explained that it is a trade-off between the two. Trade-off, when we say trade-off, one for take one and leave the other, or take the other one and leave the first one. That is what they mean. It's a trade-off between the inflation and unemployment rate. How do I mean? Right? How do I mean? Supposing government want to achieve, I told you macroeconomic objective, inflation is also there, price stability. Then you say reduce unemployment is also to increase employment opportunity is one of the macro objective, which is the first topic of the class, right? So government can only take one. And while taking one, it will lead to problem of the other. While trying to solve the problem of one, it will lead to the problem of the other. Let's say, for example, government want to reduce inflation rates to a minimal level. How to control inflation rate, you all know, by taking excess money in the circulation, it will reduce the price. Inflation will be reduced. When you are taking excess money in the circulation, it will affect your the disposable income. It will affect the company profits. It will affect so many things. Automatically, it will lead to reduction in aggregate demand. You won't be able to demand more, right? Consumption will reduce, and investment will be also reduced. So when that one is happening, then what will happen to the investors? Manufacturing company will now try to do what? To lay off some workers that look, I cannot cope. For me to cope, I have to reduce a number of workers to go. I have to sack them to go. So when doing that, by sacking workers, it will lead to what? Unemployment.
Okay.
Did you get it now? So
yes,
if government want to reduce unemployment too, it's going to increase money into the circulation. By increasing money into circulation, private investors will be able to engage more workers to produce more output.
Okay.
By producing more output, aggregate demand is going to increase. When aggregate is going to increase, the price of goods and services is going to be on the high side. It will now turn to what? Inflation.
So you can say that Keynesian unemployment something that the one you were explaining before this one.
You said what?
Is it Keynesian, or I don't know how you pronounce the name of the help us to explain it.
Good.
The other slide before this slide.
Okay.
I have a question. Just a simple question.
Okay. Yeah, I'm listening you.
Yes, concerning inflation, can we say decrease in demand and decrease in supply? Can it causes inflation in the market value?
Come again.
Decrease in demand and decrease in supply. Can it cause inflation in the market value or in the market survey?
Increase in demand can cause inflation. Decrease in demand will cause deflation.
Deflation, not inflation.
If increase in demand.
I mean decrease in demand. Decrease.
Wait, let me explain the two. Increase in demand and decrease in supply will cause inflation. Decrease in demand. Are you listening to me? Will cause deflation.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Right?
Yes, sir.
So, my sister, your question you said?
Increase.
I have a question.
The diagram under the inflection, please, sir, can you explain it? No,
is it under inflation or unemployment?
No, sir, the diagram. That diagram.
Okay.
Last question. This cyclical unemployment that state business activities is at EBB. Sir, please, what's the acronym meaning for EBB?
Come here, I will get to the later.
Sir?
I'll get to the cyclical. I'll explain cyclical to you now.
Sir?
I'll explain cyclical to you now.
Yes, I said what's the meaning, the acronym meaning for EBB?
Acronym
meaning for EBB. It states that
when something is at the lower level. Lower level now, when something is on the lower, that's when we are talking about depression. You know, when you draw the movement of cyclical up and down, the lower head is when the economy at the lower head, lower level.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I don't know my voice. You're answering me.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello. I have 5 more minutes to go. Yeah. Any question again, Ruth?
Please make the slide available, sir.
I'm with you, sir.
The slide is available. I will send it to you right now.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for taking us today. We really appreciate your time.
What of Solomon? Solomon is not there.
Yes, I'm here, sir. Good, sir. I'm here, sir. Good, sir.
I didn't hear you at all. What happened? What about the other guy? Oluwandabira?
No, we are here. We are here. We are listening. We are listening.
When are you guys having physical class?
We have you on Saturday by 8:30.
Okay, Dr. Ogudabi will be available to you.
Okay, sir. Okay,
Dr. Ogudabi will come on Saturday.
Yes,
okay,
sir.
Okay.
Come and take the 2 classes on Saturday.
Thank
So
you
the
so
next
much,
one,
sir.
I'm going to take it.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so.
Good night, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good night, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
We enjoyed your
God bless you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. I really.
All right, so good night.
Your class was lovely, sir. Thank you, sir.
Good night.